Hello there. It looks like the Rishi Sunak government is going to make the same old stupid decision that all UK governments make when they need to save some dosh. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and then like and comment below. Yes, it looks like this Tory government is going to take the machete to defence spending to help Jeremy Hunt balance his books, or more accurately, the books that Rishi cooked up. It won't be an actual cut, it will be a U-turn on the promised increases our armed forces so desperately need. Something that means inflation at 10% will bite hard into the 48 billion or so they get every year. The Treasury, as always, has decided that the defence of the realm can wait. And here we are with Remembrance Sunday tomorrow and a major conflict in Europe. Things like foreign aid and keeping the hotels topped up must come first. And we've now seen what happens when the French police get in the way of that people trafficking. Loads of well-meaning doctors, nurses, vets and architects wanted to go for a boat ride off of the coast of France, but the gendarmerie stopped them, and the doctors and nurses started throwing stones and sticks at the police, so the gendarmerie had to respond with pepper spray and the like. That overwhelmingly male group of doctors and nurses did not like that. Are these the sorts of doctors and nurses we want here? Ones that kick off with violence when they don't get their own way? And why don't they just apply for a visa and get on a ferry or an aeroplane? They've got loads of dosh to give to the rubber boat salesmen after all, haven't they? Or is there a reason they don't want to do that? And you can tell that to the group of protesters from a certain country who gathered in London earlier today, because the police have been telling us what's been going on. Anyway, I digress. Not only is defence spending under threat again, the EU Vice President and head of the European Defence Agency, Josep Borrell, has announced that the UK will be joining the EU inside their Permanent Structured Cooperation Setup, better known as PESCO, to help them with their military mobility project. Now, I've talked about this before when Liz Truss attended the first meeting of the EU Mark II at the beginning of October, the new Macron invention, the European Political Community. That's where Liz Truss gave the nod to setting up a joint agreement with them. And Rishi Sunak is obviously getting on with it. And guess what? This requires the UK to give allegiance to the EU's core values and policies, even though we're an independent third party. For now. With not a peep from the UK government on this. I've had a look through recent UK press releases and can find nothing on it. And surprise, surprise, the media is silent on it too. Now, according to the EU Commission, PESCO is a building block for EU-wide defence policy. And under EU rules, if the UK as a third country wants to take part, we have to share the values under which the EU was founded and share the objectives of the EU's common foreign and security policy, while not contravening the security and defence interests of the EU or its member states. And we have to bring something positive to the table, like expertise, equipment, or money. Not only that, we are expected to strengthen their common security and defence policy and support their missions and operations. We are being sucked back in again. And the government knows this, or else why are they trying to keep the lid on it? But what do we get in return? We're now having to pay even more for the French police to do their job on their own beaches. And Brussels still wants to play games with the Northern Ireland Protocol while banning the UK from their science projects. So that is the clearest indicator you can have that the UK joining this PESCO programme is all in the EU's favour, not ours. Otherwise it would be a big, Fat no from them. Now, it said in the Tory 2019 manifesto that we will continue to exceed the NATO target of spending 2% of GDP on defence and increase the budget by at least 0.5% above inflation every year of the new Parliament. And that was written before the Russia-Ukraine war. But I'll bet the Treasury will be using recent Russian setbacks as a thin excuse to ditch those manifesto pledges. But our forces personnel will still be expected to step into the breach if the border force goes on strike, or fill key positions where they can if the civil service strikes, and place its medical staff in hospitals when the nurses do walk out. I reckon there's going to be little Christmas cheer for the armed forces this year, and I wonder what pay rise they will get. And the worst of it is that all these cuts are being made so that Rishi and Jeremy can get a nice warm economic report from the Office for Budget Responsibility. And that particular forecaster does not have a very good record of getting much right. The trouble is that it is the official watchdog and governments are meant to take heed of it. Bit like pandemic scientists, like that wildly inaccurate Ferguson character. The term out by a Ferguson hasn't come about without reason. But one of the outcomes of their thrust to impose swinging taxes on us will be the growth of the shadow economy. Yes, that's right. Higher taxes is one of the main drivers to growing the shadow economy that does its best to hide itself from the taxman. Higher taxes, larger shadow economy. Fancy academic talk for when the going gets financially tough, more people turn to crime. No wonder we need all these people turning up on the beach and running off never to be seen again. Now, as far as I can see, the consensus is that the shadow economy makes up 10% of our whole economy, and that about 5% of the population are engaged within it in some form or another. But when comparing us with the rest of the world, we're one of the good guys. According to a 2013 Institute for Economic Affairs report, the Nordic countries' shadow economy is about 14% of the whole, while in southern Europe it tends to be 20 to 30%. While the EU had 30 million people working in the shadow economy in that year, and back then we were a part of it, of course. But I would hazard a guess that we're going to soon be part of levelling up those figures. And in 2017, the ACCA estimated the shadow UK economy to be worth 223 billion quid. That was 11.5% of GDP, all invisible to the taxman. As a result, it is also a driver for calls to offer all sorts of amnesties and to decriminalise certain activities such as the narcotics trade, to bring them all under the tax umbrella. As if that would stop the smuggling and tax evasion. And an amnesty would definitely attract the attention of people smugglers. But what the government wants to do is cut defence spending in real terms, then get those service personnel who live in barracks to replace a striking border force and ferry undocumented newcomers into top-flight hotels. I wonder how long the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace will stick around with all of this going on. And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.